Hello, I'm the Blue Arcarian Wings, and today we're going to look at servicing this Caliburn. A couple of months ago I went to an event and I took my blaster, my mate's blaster, and I've not got round to servicing either of them. For his, it should be relatively straight simple, but for mine I've actually got, I think, an issue with the ramrod. But here's what we're going to do, just to kind of show you the sort of things that need to happen. I'm going to start by doing, I suppose, what you'd say during the day, quick clean so you could use it. Then I'm going to do a more full service where I take it apart, and then I'll bring in mine and I'll show you, well, we'll investigate what's happened with the ramrod pusher and see whether that needs replacement. I have actually printed the replacement. Okay, so let's start with the on-site service you would do during the course of the day, where you're not going to break it down. That basically involves cleaning the barrel, for which you want something like this long dowel. Now this is just straightforward 9mm dowel, or whatever units you use, with a 10mm eyelet just screwed into the end. I've got two because there's two blasters, I built one for him as well. And I've got through the end a little piece of kitchen towel. Now that's just normal kitchen towel cut into quarters. And we're basically just going to use this to push it down the barrel and clean it. Yeah, just in case you want to know, this is a K26 with an 18-inch barrel, which is why you can't see it all on the camera. This is the stuff we use for cleaning it. It's the dry PTFE lubricant spray, and depending on how you feel about it, you can either spray it on there or just spray it down the barrel. Yes, apologies, we've opted for the silly long barrel, and what I'm going to do is just put a bit of a down the end of it and a bit there. You can see it huffing out. Probably should be doing this in a ventilated space. Now we just clean it, and you would push it all the way down and out again. And look, you can see it's collecting a bit of drops there. Now ideally I'm going to put another squirt down, because you just wipe it out at the end of the day. Now, this is a bit where I personally think you need to be careful, because ideally you will be wanting to push it down, turn it around and pull it through the breech, which means the breech could do with being open. So obviously you prime it, and this is the bit where you need to be careful, because with the cleaning rod shoved down there and it primed, what you've actually got is a 1 meter long projectile. Yes, this is a meter of rod. There we go. Do I have the room to show this off? I don't know if you can see that, but there's a bit of white in the bottom, and that's the kitchen towel. So you put it through, turn it around a bit and sort of drag it out, and what happens is it should get, you push it through in like a V and you pull it back in the opposite V. But be careful here, because if you hit that trigger, you've got a meter long projectile of wood dowel. There, here, look, that is basically just a few passes, and you can see how manky that is. Again, you just kind of fold up your kitchen towel, squish it through the end. There you go, look, see? You can see it just being pulled back through. Yeah, obviously the inside of these barrels are about 13mm. The stick's only 9mm. That's a 10mm eyelet. So it's not gonna, it may tap the side, but it'll just drag a bit, but won't actually damage it. And that's the last one, and that's come through pretty clean. Now I want to deprime it, so I'll just pulling back on that thing, release the trigger, and walk it forward. Here you go, deprimed. Other stuff you do during the day without taking it apart would be just to basically check on your nuts and bolts. Yeah, that one's a bit loose. So that one was fine, this one was loose, everything's in shadow, you can't see anything. These sort of things will creep up on you, so that's fine, and that's fine. So there is one little issue. You've got this locking plate here to keep the nuts in place. So there should be one here, but it's kind of gone AWOL. I suppose having one here and another on the top is kind of double kill, but yeah. On my personal Caliburn, I've obviously got this one here to hold it in place. I've got the locking plate, which is now in place by this nut, and then I put one of the dome ones over the top, just so we're not going to stab anybody in the face. So that's the sort of thing you look at during the day. Is the barrel switch all the way back? Well, it is now. Is the clamp done up properly? Yep. Now that is just a captive nut into there, so you're mangling on the plastic. So that'll be useful for doing it on the site during the stage stuff. Clean your barrel, check nuts and bolts are not loose. I'll do these in a minute, but some of these I'm going to take it apart for the next stage, so I'll look at them then. Okay, speaking of which, we're on to the next stage. Now the way, this is the takedown, so we're going to have to drift out and lever out some of these pins. But just of note, the way I like to do things is, look, some people don't like the breakdown one because I think it's a bit of weakness, which is obviously why I end up with the aluminium inserts to keep things a bit stronger. But I've always taken to putting an extra little nut just on here. You can see that, because rather than this now just levering forward on these three bits here, it's actually got this bit at the top anchoring it all along this rod. So yeah, so that's holding it in compression, and that's holding it at the bottom, and this is going to hold it at the side, so you've got 4 as opposed to 3 with a gap at the top bits. Anyway, I will now take this apart. I may time lapse this, or I may just show you when it's done. I'm going to start by undoing this one here, and I've got one on the end to hold it in place, and one here. That's right, righty lefty loosey. And I'll just back this one off, and that's the top nut off. Nothing's going to explode at this point because we're still holding it together with these pins. Sometimes it's just easier to get it started, so I've got this long bolt resting on the proud surface of the end of the pin, and we're just going to lovingly tap it out. There you go. Crash into the desk, but there's now enough there to get your fingers around it. And actually this gives you more of an area to press with than just the top, so you can put more into it. So there you go. That's one loose pin, which I might just keep that there for now because it's holding it in place, but it's easy to get out because you've got all the spring pushing forward. The next one, next two I should say, are the vertical pins. There we go, that's just coming out. I just like to start them off a bit so you're not trying to fully extend one out and the rest are already out, because obviously there's stress on everything. Just using a flathead screwdriver just so I can grab it. Okay, that's feeling a bit bitey there. Now it's out. There we go. 1, 2, whoa. And we've made a bid for freedom. Maybe that one's supposed to put. Well, that's enough to yep, there it comes apart. There, you can see what I mean. You can see there's a bit of gunk on there that needs cleaning out, and also the various points of contact. One at the bottom, 2 there, and this one at the top, and that just holds it all together. Okay, so maybe actually I didn't need to drift that one out, so we'll just push that one back through. because we can get in and clean that without removing all of this, so we don't need to do that. Oh, they're a bit so that elastic bands, but they're enough to keep a magazine in. Alright, I'm just going to use a tissue to clean this up. But yeah, I mean, look at all the gunk on that. There's some serious gunk all over there. So because I'm at home, I'm going to use a tissue. Again, if I was on the field, I'll probably just end up using my prepared lumber kitchen towel. So this was used at Splatoon, one of the games of foam things, somewhere down south in summer, in between the various lockdowns. Now let's just clean around that. When I built this, I ended up doing a bit wrong, and I put like the plunger cushion on the actual plunger as opposed to the ramrod base. Right, that's that cleaned up. Just run the same through on the O-ring. Okay, this is where we're going to check some of these screws, because these ramrod screws, I mean, you can't do it when it's assembled. Oh, that was a bit loose. See, it's a bit of a hard one to judge this, because you want it tight enough it's not going to move, but you're screwing into PLA. If you screw it in too much, you snap it. And then you've got to go and print new ramrod base, which is what I'm going to do to mine. Look, see, that's a bit loose there. There you go, I feel like that's starting to bite. And those are the two for the priming arms, and there's two holding the barrel in place. You need to make sure that they're not too proud, because they need to be under the roundness, because they'll catch. But if they're that far out, you've probably got a bigger problem than not actually being loose, not being tight. This has the upgraded pusher with O-ring. And the next step is check everything here is tight, because it's unavoidable with this 3-bar system having a bit of flex. That's why on mine I've got the Railgasm kit, and this actually has the slider ready for the Railgasm kit. So how tight do we want this? We're doing the full service, so I'm just going to back off these two, and I've got a replacement third one there. Now when you're doing this, you need to be careful that you're not just unscrewing the whole bar. So I'm sure this has a proper name, but I just thought it was been the clamping piece. And you can kind of see the little indentations in there. Now at least when you're tightening these up, if you end up just pushing the threaded rod through, it will bottom out in the print. Right, we are level on the rail. A little bit tighter. The thing is, you don't want to do it too tight, because you're just clamping the plastic. It's one of those strangeness, but if you do it too tight, you end up with it being twisted or pulled lopsided, and things won't move. It's very much an experience and how do you feel about it sort of thing. It's a bit there, but we can still move easily. So this is where you find out you need to do a bit more or a bit less, because even though we have 16 points for 18 things, these still need to actually line up enough. So if you look down the end, that's straight up, so that should fit. That's happy at the top, happy there. This one at the bottom is a bit iffy, so I might just fractionally back it off. There you go, and there's your lock and peg back on. So there you go, you don't want to do them too tight, because there's a bit of a gap in the plastic and you'll just crush it down like I've done on my other blaster. We can lock them up against these ones, which will stop anything coming off, and they will stop you hurting anybody if you run into them. Enough of that bit, right? Itself. And it's just nicer looking and safer. And they lock against each other, which should stop them falling off. Perhaps not as convenient as a lock nut, but more reusable. Now I use the FDS recommended stuff, which in theory is this Teflon stuff. When I bought it, they'd crossed out the Teflon stuff, so maybe I didn't get the right stuff. I ordered the right stuff, I don't know what I got. But this is a bit on the expensive side, but you don't really need that much. So I know we just put like a little dab on it. And we're going to do the same with this O-ring. Just on there. And a dabby. A dabby. I mean, I may actually be over lubing this, but it gets used up. There we go, just spread it out, and that's your front end serviced. So now let's look at the back. We've got screws for the sear pivot, the trigger pivot, and the mag release pivot. Now we just check they're tight. Now some of these are into the plastic and just holding pins in place. I think that one actually screws into a metal collar, so this has something to pivot on. Yeah, but again, just be wary of over tightening stuff. Next is the next bunch of nuts. This threaded rod, which braces here, goes all the way into there. Using my fingers to tighten up this threaded rod to pull the nut in there, which does pull this apart a bit, and then did it tight up with this. Just finger tight, just to stop it moving. Ideally you'd have a proper brace here. I like thumb hole stocks, I suppose it's a choice thing. This at least does a bit of bracing and it pulls it together. Just tighten this up, but I was cautioning you against it too much because it's pulling on the plastic. And the screw down there is used to hold the stock on. Which now just leaves us with these other three ones. Now which leaves us with the 3 threaded rods, and they are captive in here, here and here. Now they're not going to move, but we grab this and tighten it up. Just hold that with your finger so you just know if it's moving or not. But like I said, make sure you leave a fair chunky amount here, because that's what's going to go on through the top here when you saw me take it apart, just to keep it all nice and strong. And there's not really room to get the ring round, but you can actually just get the open end round. I mean, when you think about it, these things operate by rapidly releasing the spring. It's going to cause a bit of vibration, shake the whole thing and shake things loose. So you do have to look after these things. No. Right. Turns out this about tightened up, you can actually take it off now. I'll take off that. That goes there. And this has actually got a captive nut in there still. There you go, and that's your stock cushion off. Time to tighten up these. Again, finger on the thread just down here so you can sense if it's moving. These aren't so critical as long as they don't back out. Yep, I can feel that moving. Alright, you can see the plunger head is making a small bid for freedom, which is good, because we're just going to pull it out a bit. Actually, you know what, we're going to take out that last pin. Yeah, this is how you sort out your elastic bands. I think I've just got one that's wrapped around all of them. They do kind of age a bit, so keep an eye on that. And we're going to bring back in my overlong thing. It's nice friendly wood. We're just going to push this tissue in and around, just so we can pull out a load of gunk and stuff. Now we don't lube this, we lube the so we don't lube this, we just lube the plunger head. And obviously before that, put the spring back in, make sure it's on the spring guide rest there. Right, let's do the plunger head. So here's the plunger head. Oops, focus. Looking lovely and grimy. And again, I screwed up and I put the cushion on the plunger head, not on the ramrod base. So let's professionally clean that with this tissue I've got lying around. Carefully so we don't rip it, liberate that O-ring. That lovely, gummy, dirty O-ring. But you can see the grot that comes off these things, and that's not even been pulled through yet. Right. So we don't lubricate this bit, because the bit that moves is the O-ring. How does it get so dirty, and how does it remain so dirty? The method I like to do is put a bit at each of the cardinal directions and just sort of smooth it around, and kind of hope I don't wipe more off than I do on. I just wipe my finger on there. Right, as they say in the Haynes manual, assembly is the reverse of disassembly. So drop it in over the spring, push it home in the middle. So we'll do that bit. And then wiggle it all like that, right. Easy, Zed. Right, so there we go, that's that one locked. And those pins through. I can just feel them pushing on the bottom. So I'll just put in this top nut just to apply some top tension. There we go, and that adds the top support. If required, just kind of apply some, bend it this way pressure just to help seat that in. There we go, one service Caliburn, which hopefully I will get around to actually chronoing before it gets used again. Mind you, with the whole COVID stuff going on, there'll be tons of time to do that. What I'm now going to do is service my blue one, but